This is a dangerous groups that we're dealing with now. It was a nightmare.
Flight 807, you're clear for landing. Runway 7, Bravo.
All personnel report to the nearest tornado shelter. This is not a drill.
If you need help, then dial your operator.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.
Good morning and welcome to this week's edition of The Mediator with me, your host, Brian West, here to give you the top 8 headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. Now, as usual, I'll give you the top 8 local headlines and developing news stories that made it first, followed by a movie clip, a skit, a trailer, or something that's going on in the community, or maybe some pictures. And then I'll give you the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories that made it, folks. So let's waste no time. Oh, yeah. Let's get to it. Story number 1. Students, a.k.a. scholars, if you're Justin, scholars with guns are becoming a local concern. So students, a.k.a. scholars with guns, are becoming a local concern. YPD found 3 firearms in a book bag belonging to a Cardinal Mooney High School student. Now, the police then busted another student from East High School with a gun in his bag, which the student said he did not have inside the school. Now, each incident proves that no matter how hard Congress gets on, or anybody gets on firearms, the gun stories are staying in the headlines. The sad part about this story is that not too much has changed, and that's what still has the story trending, because not too much has changed. These gun stories have been in the news since the 90s. Children with guns. Now, somehow, some way, kids keep getting access to guns, and that's what got story number 1 in this week. Big headline. Story number 2. How is the local special needs community doing? Youngstown Radio Reading Services gained front page attention on Sunday, March 6th. The nonprofit is celebrating 30 years of goodwill reading for the blind and has 75 to 100 volunteers. Mike Mooter, who is the program coordinator, was also mentioned in the article. Now, in normal and tough times, people often forget those with special needs. The YRRS story highlights the people who are investing in sign language, handicap, closed captioning, and for the hearing impaired. All of that stuff balled into one, and other services that provide for those with special needs. So this story by the Youngstown Radio Reading Services has put the notice on people providing for special needs, and that's the good thing about the American way. And that's why story number 2 made it this week. Story number 3. How local educators and political leaders are using the internet to spread information. Technology has changed things, folks, and a number of local businesses, educators, and political leaders have turned to technology to spread valuable information and make things more efficient. Educators have turned to online learning, especially in a pandemic. They're turning to it. Businesses have turned to technology to replace cashiers, waiters, and workers. Just about everyone has turned to websites to spread information. Mahoning County Auditor Ralph Meacham is who got this story in. He is using the auditor's website to explain new levies. Now, in the local article, Meacham says that he got the idea from Canfield Schools, thus getting this story into the top 8. Now, why businesses and other entities turn to technology mainly has to do with the lack of dependency on humans making mistakes in human areas, and the lack of humans to get the job done better now and more efficient. That's why people turn to technology. Now, either way, there are pros and cons, and only time will tell how the ripple effect that this will have on the working class, and with that idle time, what that human being will do without a job, with the computer replacing it. That's why story number 3 made it this week. Story number 4. How important are local retirees? Retirees are important to the economy. This is clean money and clean time reinvested back into the system. That's retiree money. Delphi retirees could finally be seeing a bill to restore their pensions. The Susan Muffley Act is the bill being pushed by Rep. Dan Kildee, a Democrat from Flint, Michigan, and the bill has support from a few states, quite a bit. Now, if it is approved, according to a Vindicator article published March 4th, the funds would provide for approximately 20,000 former Delphi salaried retirees and their families. This has been a 13-year battle for the former Delphi workers, and that's why story number 4 made it in this week. Story number 5, LMC, Lordstown Motor Corp's news stories keep making major headlines. Lordstown Motor Corp has been staying in the headlines. Now the talk is about shares. GM has sold its 7.5 million shares of common stock, and ex-Lordstown Motors CEO sold his 5.2 million stock shares. Now each of these sell-offs made front page news. GM claims they just wanted to get the company afloat, which they did even with the purchase of Foxconn, the company's stock. But even with the purchase of Foxconn, the company's stocks continue to tumble. Now, even with this sell-off, the founder, Steve Burns, is still making millions, and he also still owns 37,862,745 shares of common stocks, according to a Vindicator article, thus getting this story in this week. That's why story number 5 made it in. Big headline. Story number 6. Is increasing tuition the answer for YSU? Big question. With college enrollment on the decline, universities are having to find new ways to adapt to pay the bills. Now, this has left many universities with no choice but to raise tuition rates. YSU is yet another college falling victim to lower enrollment and higher costs due to inflation, etc. That means that there's more. Now, the 4.6% rise is set to take place is set to be effective in the fall of 2022. Now, students are set to pay $5,205.24 per semester compared to $4,976.40 that they're paying now. Now, 4.6% is the maximum allowed by Ohio law. That's the maximum allowed for things to be raised. Now, Neil McNally, the Vice President of Financial and Business Operations, says this could save the university an additional $1 million to $1.5 million in revenue. The university has already eliminated 26 associates, bachelor's, and master's level level programs due to few to no attendance. So few to no attendance in these classes. That's why they had to eliminate it. Now, COVID-19 has not made the situation any better. The simple fact which you can learn from story number 6 is that the thirst for knowledge comes at a price that a lot of people are choosing not to pay for. And that's why story number 6 made it this week. Big headline. Story number 7 of the top 2 local headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. My news stories bring all the people to the yard. Their life is better than yours. I could teach you, but I'd have to charge. My news stories bring all the people to the yard. Their life is better than yours. Top 2 local. Yeah. Ooh-wee. Story number 7. The new map has gained local attention. 10 safe districts to Republicans and 3 to Democrats while splitting Mahoning and Trumbull County. This is what one article says. That's what I do. I read headlines for you. Now, this is what got the story in. It's because of those districts favoring Republicans. And that's good news for Republicans. If you're a Democrat, it might not be good news for you. But either way, the map is leaning Republican. Now, either way, the new map is gaining attention in hopes to guard against gerrymandering or gerrymandering, if you want to be exact or specific. So gerrymandering, gerrymandering. There's a J and a G. Now, one editorial claims that the new map fails to unite the valley, while everybody else is just wondering still wondering what this is going to do and what effect it's going to have on future elections. That's why story number 7 made to the top 2 this week. Big headline. Story number 8 in the top local headline and developing news story that made it this week. Won't you seek something exciting in these stories made for you? Don't you feel special? I care enough about you to give you the top story this week. Story number 8. Youngstown Police Station has been in quite a few headlines. What does that mean? First, it was chipped cement in the basement that made headlines. Now it's $136,000 to clean up damages that occurred on December 13th from a water line break at the police station. On Wednesday, March 2nd, Council approved 2 ordinances to use a portion of the ARP funds to advertise the civil service exam, to try to recruit, get people to take the test, become cops. So they're using the American Rescue Plan. They're also using it to purchase body cameras, buy stun guns or stun devices, don't want to be specific on that, and to purchase licensing software. The article was published on March 3rd, keeping the attention on the YPD needs and improvements. So Youngstown Police Department is making quite a few headlines. And what does that mean? That means that people are investing in the better policing, and they want better safe things for police, and they're investing in the people who are on the front lines trying to protect and serve the community. So what does that mean for you? And what does that mean for the crime rate? And what does that mean for the city? And that's why story number 8 made it to the top, because it outweighs all the others, because the police are important, and investing in the police seem to be the most important thing to a city trying to stop crime. Well, folks, those are our top 8 local headlines and developing news stories that made this week. I'll be right back with the top 8 international headlines. So don't go anywhere. You're the Mediator. Me, Brewis. I'll be right back.
Tune in and don't forget to subscribe to Method 8 Inc. YouTube channel. You can also watch free public entertainment. And don't forget to show some support by visiting www.method8inc.com by buying something, clicking something, watching something, or just reading something.
Welcome back. Now it's time to get to the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories that made it this week, folks. I have to stress, and we have to talk about a solution to a problem that we're having, which is a war problem. Once again, I will tell the story about a few friends. I've got 2 friends who I don't like. They're bullies. The other one just hangs around me because I have a lot. The friend that's a bully, I have to get my cousin to fight him most of the time just to get him to calm down. The guy just cannot stop pushing people around. So I know that I have a lot. I have a lot to offer. So these other friend just keeps coming around, and all of a sudden he starts hanging out with this bully. These friends get real excited. They want to go to war with me. I'm out of resources, but I still have a lot left to discover. So what I come to find out is, in the end, is that I finally, after all these 2 friends decide that they want to go take over the world, bully people, kill people, kill little babies, blow people up in hospitals. At the end of the day, after I've restocked, ready to go, I finally have to face these 2 friends, and all of a sudden, World War III breaks out. And then I start to think, what would it have been like if I did not do anything? If I stayed in my lane and just let these friends wreak havoc? Would they wear themselves out? Would they take over the world? Would they even take over my little territory? These are the things and the choices that we find ourselves having to make in life. There's a world full of people wanting to seek opportunity. There's a world full of people wanting to rule the world. There's a world full of bullies, dictators, anarchists, monarchs, kings, queens, gays, lesbians, blacks, whites, Republicans, Democrats. There's a world full of people. And at the end of the day, me, little old Brian, as a mediator, has to decide what I want to do to make the world a better place. That's scary. Well, folks, those are decisions that we have to make. And I've decided to give you the top 8. Isn't that special? I'm doing it for you. Well, folks, let's get to it. Story number 1. The Russian isolation could create a global revelation, folks. Revelation? Now, whatever Vladimir Putin's ultimate goal is, it can be traced from past conflicts and wars. So let's backtrack a little bit. There was the conflict in Syria, where Assad and Putin made headlines as potential allies. Or probably were, well, they were allies. Now, new reports are also then surfaced about Russian spy ships off of the coast of America and Russian spy planes over Alaska. We also witnessed media coverage about Russian conflict in Crimea, the annexation of it. Now we are seeing the battle taking place in Ukraine. Now, what is being revealed in a strategy that goes back some time. This goes back quite a bit, long time. The biggest concern is in this still developing story is the ultimate goal. And as more horrific stories come in, Russia will continue to be on everyone's radar. Either way, the damage has already been done, folks. So, with that said, that means that somebody somewhere has been planning. And they've been planning for a long time. And now we could be getting ready for a climax, hopefully and hoping for a good resolution. That's why story number 1 made it this week. Story number 2. A lot of people feel that the countries with nukes are the biggest fear at the moment because they haven't been getting along. Alone in a room, it's just me and you. Oh, I'm so lost, and I don't know what I'm gonna do. But what if I choose the wrong thing to do? Story number 2. People are talking about war, folks. And when people talk about war, there are ideas, frustrations, and talk about nuclear weapons. The biggest fear now seems to be about how do we keep the 3 biggest world powers from colliding in a time when the world just cannot afford a war. Another world war. The biggest concern surrounding this story is how cheaper peace is. Peace is cheap. It doesn't cost much and it gets a lot done. And in regards to war, when you compare the two, who knows why a leader would choose war in the midst of all this crisis that's been going on, and this remains the biggest mystery of all. Why blow up innocent babies? Why blow up the future? Especially your own people. And that's why story number 2 made it this week. Big headline. Story number 3. The child care war is brewing. Child care, folks. Russia bombed a children's hospital. That is bad news. Children and families are fleeing their war-torn countries at alarming rates and numbers. This alone is causing child care workers to rethink their plans. Some are throwing in the towel. The child care war is brewing because migration along with COVID-19 restrictions do not mix. Mothers cannot go to work if they do not have babysitters, and children cannot go to school without teachers. That is what got the story in, and the story has the tides shifting, period, because people are starting to get concerned and they're getting desperate. That's why story number 3 made it this week. Story number 4. Inflation could be a major problem for Democrats. Here is why. Democrats have a very diverse base that mainly this base usually turns to Democrats for specific solutions. Now, with so much inflation and spiking gas prices and oil prices, Democrats are on defense because people want answers. Another election season is around the corner, folks. An election season with some very, very important seats up for grabs. And Americans want answers on why this green new energy deal is already costing them at the pumps. Now, spectators about these new policies are voicing voicing their concerns about the push by the Biden agenda to stall the plan for energy independence, thus keeping this story alive. Energy policies are what's keeping people tuned in to what's happening around them. That's why story number 4 made in this week, folks. Well, folks, those are our top 4 international headlines and developing news stories that made it. I'll be right back with top 4. So don't go anywhere. You're the Mediator with me, Brian West. I'll be right back. If you want to check out the stories that almost made it in or did make it in, go to our Twitter feed on our website. Check out everything. All of the sources are there. And go to the website. Welcome back. Now it's time to get to the top 4 international headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. Folks, I have to get you to understand that why you have to get up, why you have to do something, why you have to go to work, why you have to be strong. Because when you see the effects of a bomb dropping on your community, when you see the effects of evil taking all the things that belong to you, it does something to your spirit. It brings the hero out of heroes. It brings the beast out of people. You know, some people take life as a joke. They don't take things seriously. But now when you see war right in front of you and you see people dying and you still don't know what to do, find something to do, something constructive. Don't waste your life, because this is what's happening in the news, folks. We're seeing it. And if you're not informed, I'm in here every week digging deep through deep stories for you. You could be anywhere in the world, but I thank you for doing something constructive with your time. Reading and stifling through these stories are not easy, but I'm doing it to wake you up, because it's important. Can't sleep your entire life. Boy, I feel something special coming out of me today. Well, folks, let's get to it. Story number 5. Nonprofits, organizations will determine the future of policy. Here's why. Humanitarian aid workers are on the front lines, folks, and they are seeing the lasting effects of war and failed policies. Nonprofit organizations have enough evidence to now shift policymakers' plans to fix problems that world leaders are causing. These are people. The fact remains that sitting officials are causing these wars. This includes presidents, dictators, emperors, kings, and queens. Now, most nonprofit groups have been so busy that they can't even keep up with their own everyday lives, raising their own families. Now, this includes nurses, doctors, teachers, federal workers, daycares, and even police. So that means if people are sitting around doing nothing, these nonprofit groups are seeing it. And they're saying we have to light the switch or the whip, whatever, to get the goal, to get people to understand what's at stake here. Now, there were over 4 detailed stories pointing out which nonprofits were aiding in the Ukraine chaos. A lot of them. The story is still developing. So while everybody has nothing to do, going around sitting and hoopla and getting drunk, folks, there is real stories going on, and people are looking at it and they're saying, if you are doing nothing, why should I? But some people are still going into the battle, and that's why story number 5 made it this week. Ooh-wee. Story number 6, the Great Migration just got worse, real bad. People will continue to complain about border conflicts, but the real stories are in what's causing these migration, folks. The fact is that wars, criminals, thieves, thugs, people who do corruptions is causing migration to get worse. Now, there are just too many headlines in the news about people fleeing their countries because of war to get to safety. Mexico is just one country, but now Ukraine. You also have Afghanistan. We can't even forget about Syria, along with other war-torn countries in the Middle East. This is a mess. Now, the more these stories make headlines, the worse migration will be. And I am giving you the news. I'm sounding the alarm. There's a lot to do, folks. And that's why story number 6 almost made it to the top 2 this week. Story number 7 in the top 2 international headlines and developing news stories that made it this week for you, to keep you informed. Oh, keep you informed. Story number 7. price gouging or inflation. Woo, man, it's top 2. Analysts will be all over oil and gas companies, folks. The energy business, period, is what has this story at full steam, because $4 gas is enough to cause a riot. Can we get some lower prices here, man? I can't travel. If people were poor and could not travel, they're probably now on the streets walking. Now, some articles are talking price gouging rather than inflation. The debate now is if current prices have anything to do with energy policies. Because if they do, people now want these energy policies to get gas prices back in order. This story could explode. I mean, explode, because everyone is affected by gas prices, folks, and oil prices. That's why story number 7 almost made it to the top this week. Story number 8 and the top international headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. 3 little birds up on my window. Everything's gonna be alright. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Don't worry about a thing. Every little thing is gonna be alright. Story number 8. Energy policies are forcing people to study what works and doesn't work. America needs energy independence, folks. This was the gospel of Trump, Donald, and it rattled a lot of feathers. It was the gospel of a lot of people. It's the gospel. Energy independence. Trump is a thing of the past now, folks, but now energy policies are back in top headlines, and people may be starting to rethink even the Obama strategy to see what is underneath America. Let's start digging. I think Joe is starting to think about it too, because the pressure is on. Forget the electric. Let's go back to the gas, baby. Woo, yeah! People may also be starting to rethink Trump's plan to revive the Keystone Oil Pipeline project. God has filled the earth with oil for us, baby. Woo! Yeah, so let's dig. Let's dig. We got nothing to lose. The world is already coming to an end, right? This is a real deal story, folks, because if energy costs keep rising, things could get even worse, and alternative energy has never been tested to win wars. So nobody knows how this will turn out. This story is still developing, and that's why I made it to the top this week. Every little thing is going to be all right. Well, folks, those are our top 8 local and international headlines and developing news stories that made this week. I hope you got something out of today's program. I always get something out of doing the research. As usual, I'd like to thank all the news outlets, the media, the people on the front lines. You deserve all the credit, the journalists. I'm just a mediator. If you want to show some support here at Method 8, it does not take much. All you have to do is visit the website on the screen, buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, or to sponsor a program. Folks, I'll be back next week looking through over 200 or more stories, staying celibate just for you, and staying on alert and trying to be the battle and the voice maker of peace. Have a good week, everybody. Thank you for tuning to the Mediator with me, Brian West. Peace.
If you need help, then dial your operator.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is